All right. Well, I'm pleased to join today by Coach Huff, the head boys coach at Holy Innocents, a good man and a good coach and a winner and a builder of men. So, Coach, I only hear great things about you. I'm really genuinely looking forward to this myself. I hope everybody can get a little something out of it, and appreciate you joining me. It really means a lot.
No problem. I'm hoping no matter what you coach that you can find something, some nugget, something that I'm presenting that you can gain from your program. As Coach Parker said, I'm the head varsity boys coach at Holy Innocents Episcopal School. Just completed my first season there. And I'm just going to talk to you about being smart. Be smart and building a winning culture. So first off, I'll give you a little background about myself. Obviously, I'm the head coach at Holy Innocents right now currently. I spent 3 years at Duluth High School from 2016 to 19. The 2 previous years before that, I was in college coaching, Alcorn State University as assistant coach and Georgia Southern University as director of basketball operations. I had the pleasure of spending 7 years at St. Francis High School, where pretty much a lot of people know me from, where I got that program going. Even to where it is today, as Drew Catlett is taken the realm and even had much more success than I had there. And previous to that, I had a couple of runs at Atlanta International School, um, the minor league basketball with Rome Knights and Rome Gladiators, and Cedartown High School up in Northwest Georgia. But 2 of my most distinguished positions I had were being assistant coaches. First, at Booker T. Washington High School, where I learned a ton of information and how to run a program from Virgil Amy, who's my mentor. And then also at Dutchtown High School down in Henry County from Kurt Miller, who's now the athletic director over all of Henry County schools. So I'm really thankful and grateful for those 2 gentlemen to even get me to this spot I am right now.
Yeah, you've been around some good ones, Coach. That's for sure.
Definitely.
Definitely.
A little coaching success, 201 wins. I was blessed to get my 200th win this year in the state playoffs. Tons of coaching accolades. While at Duluth, we went to 3 straight state tournament appearances, which was the first appearance in the Sweet 16 that they had since 1985. And it's the only consecutive state appearances they had in school history. So really proud of that and proud of what we were able to do at Duluth. 54 wins, the most wins in a 3-year span in school history. 2 of them being the second and fourth most in school history in the season. 21 one year, 19 in another. A lot of success came at St. Francis, as I said, which included the 5 state consecutive state tournament appearances, including the state championship in 2014, state runner-up 2013, region championship, Sweet 16 appearances. And this year's not on there, but at Holy Innocents this year, we were able to go to the Elite 8 this year. And one thing I can tell you is that we were able to do it while losing probably a top 100 player that transferred in the middle of the year from us. So I always tell you to stay with your guns, believe in what you're doing, and believe in the date.
Absolutely, Coach. Absolutely. Well, it's just excited to hear what all you guys do to build that success. Because I'm telling you, Coach, across all sports, across gender, these things that we're talking about are true. You know, we're not talking about your
Yes.
offense or defense right now. We're talking about how it's going to go, how to build this program, build this culture, which you have done now at multiple places. So I'm excited. Tell us a little bit about how you getting there and where you're going from there.
All right, we'll go past this. A lot of people know all this other stuff about the basketball community. So we'll jump right into it. And I just believe that when we talk about being smart, most of us, whenever a season begins, we want to hear leaders. They want to answer questions about expectations for a year. Like based on last year's improvement, how much growth can we expect? And a lot of times we as coaches, we skirt around the issue. You know, we don't answer the question like we want to or we should because we don't want to put a bullseye on our back.
Yeah.
How classroom individual, we have expectations. And without expectations, we can't improve, or how can improvement occur? So with that being said, I think we've got to understand that no one aspires to be the same. We all expect more in a team or individual. Bill Copeland once said, the trouble with not having expectations that we can spend our life running up and down the field and never score. So we've got to have some expectations. They're necessary. And we've often read or heard that when it comes to dealing with expectations, they got to be managed correctly. But you cannot manage expectations. You must lead expectations. So I pledge all the coaches that's on here, do not forget the difference between a leader and a manager. Leaders do the right thing. Managers do things right. We're in a position to be leaders as head coaches, not managers, leaders.
Amen, Coach. That is awesome. Good content there. So tell us about how you be smart. You got your be smart principle to build that culture.
People, don't know a little background is that I'm an English major. I got my BA in English from Morehouse College. So acronyms, I like to use them a lot. So using the SMART acronym is the best process I came up with. And SMART stands for being specific. What do I want to accomplish? Why is the expectation important? Well, how is it measurable? That's the M in SMART. How much and how many? How will we know when it's accomplished? How is it attainable? What is the plan? Are we being realistic? How is it relevant? How strong is our why? Does everyone feel the same? And how timely is it? Are we in a position to handle the expectations in the next month or year? If not, how much more time do we need? So that's what this acronym SMART stands for. And I'm going to break it down to each one of these as we continue to go through this. So when I say you have to be specific, you've got to have a mission statement or a vision for yourself and for your program. For instance, mine is to inspire players by believing in them while being a role model on and off the floor, to challenge them to do. That's my mission statement. So I challenge each one of you to create a mission statement or vision for yourself, which will also carry over into your program. I've listened to Sherman White speak a whole lot, and this is one of the big things that he talks about is having a mission statement and a vision.
Absolutely.
And so here at Holy Innocents, we have what we call a foundation of success. And our mission statement as a basketball program is to develop young men both on and off the basketball court, utilizing the life lessons taught through sport to prepare our student athletes to be successful on the court, in the classroom, and in society. It is our most important mission that our student athletes leave our program as more productive and responsible members of society than they were when they began with us. None of that says get a scholarship. None of that says to be the leading scorer. Our job is to make them better young men using the game of basketball. And that's what I try to do by being specific. Now start with who you have around you and your coaching staff. So I have some coaching staff expectations, loyalty, work ethic, commitment, and fit. A lot of times we have a lot of friends in our business, guys that we know, but sometimes those guys don't fit the actual place you are, the actual place of work. There are a lot of guys who are great coaches, but they may not be great coaches in a private school setting or in an inner city setting. You just got to find a great fit, and they've got to be committed and have a work ethic that matches or exceeds you as a head coach, and they've got to be loyal. So when I look at my coaching staff, I think the number one job of an assistant coach and even a head coach is to make everyone's job easier, be a servant leader. I think that's the biggest part of this is being a servant leader. There's no job too small. So find out what needs to be done and do it. I worked for a great guy in Mark Byington at Georgia Southern and was able to take so much for the way. And that always stuck with me is that a lot of times we want to say why things can't get done, but let's find a way to get things done. The second thing is activist is your team. I think a lot of times assistants look at it as a head coach's team. Activist is your team because you're going to have a team one day, so act like it now. Next one is do what you can with what you have, where you are, no excuses. Don't compare what another team has, whether they're in your region, whether someone you have to go up with in the state tournament. Just do what you can with what you have and get better every day. Add value to everything that you do every single day on and off the court. enforce the team's culture and standards at all times, protect the locker room. And I think that was something that was very big for us at Holy Innocents this year, was enforcing our team's culture and standards even in the first year. I think without that, we don't overcome what we were able to overcome to be successful at the end of the year. When we find a problem, find a solution. We go through a lot that many times assistant coaches don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I put on this, your head coach has enough problems as is. So find a solution for him, even if you're bringing him that problem, or give him an option to find that solution. Be professional, period. Encourage and motivate everyone in your program to buy into what the head coach wants, from players to managers to even the other assistants. Bring energy, enthusiasm, and effort every day. I think that's really key, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And when asked for your input, speak honestly. Do not be a yes man or woman. I tell my staff that all the day. Challenge me when we're in those coaches' meetings. Challenge me, before we get out on that court, and then we're going to come together as one group so we can present it to our team. Then we're measurable. And this is something that we wanted to do at Holy Innocents. We had a motto, do it for the culture, which means to be great, have grit, be relentless, give maximum effort, hold yourself accountable, and exude toughness. Again, like I said, I love acronyms. So that's kind of what great meant for us. And the last 3 years, I've been going to listen to the Hawks and Lloyd Pierce speak, and they talked about daily vitamins, something they try to give their players every day. So we wanted our players to bring this every day. And this was effort, enthusiasm, energy, and execution. 4 E's that we talked about all the time, whether it's pregame speech, whether it's getting ready for practice, whether it was going to the classroom. Those are the 4 E's that we wanted every day. And then we had goals for our season. Get better every game. We wanted to average 70 points per game, and I can be honest, we didn't get to that in my first year. But we did allow 55 points or less per game, which was able to help us win. We did not win region this year. That's still a goal of ours. We did make state, like I said, and we wanted to make sure that we made state. That was a thing that we wanted to do, and we were able to get to the Elite Eight. And Coach, anytime a question comes up, just stop me and let me know.
Well, we got one just came in, Coach. It says, do your measurables change with the changing of teams each year? Do you change your measurables every year, or would that always be what they are?
Yes. For instance, when we lost in the state championship game, I'm not going to lie to you, when I was at St. Francis, that changed. Our job was to win the state championship the next year. Like, we felt it. We put that pressure on our back that that's what we wanted to do. We were young. Most of those guys were freshmen and sophomores, so we knew that was our measurable for that next year. I think you have to make sure what is reasonable for your team. Like, if you know it's going to be a struggle for you to win region, maybe you're in a tough region, then you don't want to make a measurable that's unattainable for your team. Those were things that we saw that we thought we could really get accomplished in our first year at Holy Innocents.
Absolutely. And if you guys have any questions, just put them in the chat, and we'll get them to Coach when we have a pause in the action there. But thank you, Coach. That's great.
No problem. Some game things that we wanted to get done. We wanted 4 more kills, which were 3 stops in a row a game. That was really big for us down the stretch. I mean, we talked a lot. I mean, we would talk after the game. My coaching staff and my players knew. They would start talking, we got to get a kill. We got to get a kill. And we knew what that meant when we got one, how it could energize everything about us. We wanted to hold other teams a 40% free field goal percentage on defense, 30% three-point field goal defense. We wanted to take 3+ charges in a game. I have to say this as we're talking, and it was in the game we lost in the Elite Eight. We had one of our players take 8 charges in the game. One guy. So when you talk about our 8, one guy took 8. I think in that game we took 11 total, but they understood what we wanted from them. So it wasn't something that they just heard that day because we were playing that team and we thought we could get it done. No, it was something that they heard all year. And I want to say if we go on max preps, that same player, at least the state of Georgia, in charge is taken. We wanted to contest all our shots. We wanted to limit opponents to 20 or less paint touches, which was something we charted. because we felt if players, especially high school players, can get in the paint, and that's any player actually, then they can make plays for themselves or others. We wanted to play without fouling, which means to limit our opponent to 15 or less free throw attempts. We wanted to have 13 or less turnovers. We felt as a team, especially coming into this program, we wanted to have, go back one slide again.
All right, there.
To have 200 passes or less, or more, a game. We felt, in all honesty, that our program coming into it, there was a lot of ball watching and a lot of dribbling the basketball. So we wanted to emphasize passing the basketball in games. And we started with it even in summer basketball, making sure we were making the right passes. And we would talk about it after our game. You know, Coach Harkins on our staff would say, Coach, we only got, we weren't successful on offense. And it started carrying over to the season. We wanted to put pressure on the other team by getting to the free throw line. We wanted to win the rebounding battle. And as we got late in the season, our two guards were our best rebounders. I was listening to Steve Smith of Florida State talk last week on rebounding. And it's ironic that Devin Vassell, who's a player I actually got to coach against when I was at Duluth, was the leading rebounder from a wing position at Florida State. On the flip side of stopping them getting paint touches, we want to get 20 or more paint touches. I'm big on baseline out of bounds stuff, so we wanted to get what we could out of baseline out of bounds. And I'm not scared to admit that I thought we could have been better at that this year. We actually got hurt in the game. We lost with it. You know, we had worked on a baseline out of bounds play all week for our players to learn from it, and we had a slip up in it, and it kind of changed the momentum in the game with less than 3 minutes left. But we were up one. The three kind of put us down, and they let them go on a run. And if you don't know what paint touches are, there any penetrating dribble or pass in the paint. I'm a big believer in a practice plan, and this is just one that I had from Duluth. And I can send this to anybody, even send some from Holy Innocents. But I think you have to have a skeleton for a daily practice. It becomes efficient and organized. It allows your assistants to be the best they can be in practice because they know what's going on at all times. The worst thing an assistant can be, because I've been an assistant before, is not knowing what's going on. But what are we doing next, coach? Or they become uninvolved. So each coach has their own philosophy. Some are flexible with their practice plan and will stay with a drill until they get it right. Some will move on and allocate more time the next day if it's not done right. So, you know, I put two examples in here. Dean Smith is not going to change. And Saban is going to stay with a drill until he gets it right. So there are different ways to think about it. But I think a practice plan is essential. I think there are times, especially early in the season, that you really got to get stuff done. I can tell you right now, probably the first month in the season, I never get to the end of a practice plan. And every one of my practice plans is going to have a quote, something to get the players thinking, because we really want our guys to think outside of just basketball. And it may have something to do with basketball or it may not. In addition, one of the big things that we tried to do in practice and with the practice plan was praise our guys. You know, if they did something very good in the classroom, if a teacher sent me a nice note about a player, you know, having a great week or having a great day in class, we praise our kids at the beginning of practice or at the end of practice to let them know we're thinking about.
Yeah, great, Coach. I agree completely. And that was good across the board. We did that in football. You can do that anytime.
And then the next thing is that a sample calendar. You know, a lot of people say that this is only for private schools because we have a lot of parents who are always involved. But I think this could be beneficial for any program that you have, is having a sample calendar for the year. Does it require more planning? It does. But it really helps. Like, for instance, even though this is just a sample of one from Duluth, which I have in one from Holy Innocents this year, coming to Holy Innocents, I had to incorporate my 7th and 8th grade, which is a lot different than what I was used to. You know, I've done 9th, JV, and varsity, but having this many teams that you've got to really plan out, you better have a calendar to go through everything, where people are practicing, what time they're practicing, because you never know when you're going to get a call. Something changes, especially early in the season. If football's still going, our football team went to the Final Four in football, so they were playing for a long time. And if you had severe time, if you need to move something up. So you organize all your team activities in this: practice games, skill development, study hall, film study. It's a flexible outline for your season. So I would send this to the parents. But in addition, what I would do, I would also email our parents every week. If there's something that was going to change on that practice calendar, they would know about it in their email on a Monday or late Monday afternoon. So I think it's something that's very important to have in your program. And then obviously, if it was not for COVID-19, we would probably be doing basketball workouts right now. But this is kind of one we had at the beginning of the year. We would have 2 different sessions for guys, either an evening session or a morning session. And this is kind of what we would send out to college coaches, so they would know what was going on. Because this is how is the measurable part being attainable. And this is part of how everything that you're doing is getting obtained. The next one, it'll kind of show you how we broke everything down and what we wanted to look for. We had a essential preseason calendar. And again, everything I'm talking about, I can share. My email will be at the end. You can email me. I can send it to you. We had a preseason calendar of what we were looking to get done this preseason. But we wanted to go into our workouts to focus on 4 things: shooting, skill development, individual defense, and playing without the ball. I think a lot of times we just have workouts to work out. Well, you've got to evaluate your team to understand what your guys need to get better at. So after we had our summer and we got to know our team, that's what the coaches and myself decided that we needed to get better at. So now you've had specific, your measurables, your attainables. Well, how do you make it relevant? So one of the big things that we talk about is a ladder of success that gets us to a certain point at Holy Innocents. And one of those things on that ladder of success is our individual skilling, an important part of becoming a successful program. It starts at the very bottom, our feeder program, everything. It allows our younger players to develop the skills that are integral to success at the high school level, and it continues with individual development during the season. Again, our most fundamental belief at Holy Innocents is that by improving the individual, we improve our team. One of our kids, and I'll name him, Carter Kennedy, is a testament to individual skill development, from where he was from the summer to where he was preseason to where he was the beginning of the season, that we don't get where we're going or what we were able to get to at the end of the season without how much he did. Any questions, Coach?
Yeah, we got one just came in. It says,
Okay.
how do you have any individual meetings with different players of different skill levels?
Yes. So, for instance, our season finished before all this happened. So every coach on our staff, our 7th grade coach, our 8th grade coach, our JV coach, and the varsity staff met with each player individually about what they needed to do to improve, what were their strengths, what we wanted to see out of them from spring to summer. We did all those things. There were times during the season we would bring a player in after practice, and we would tell them, you've got to improve on this matter. There were times myself or assistant coach would bring a player in. We would watch film together, maybe before if we had a late practice, and say, look at this. This is what has to improve on what we have to do, or this is what you're doing very well. So, yes, we did do those things. All right, another part of our individual skill development, it takes place on multiple platforms for us at Holy Innocents. We have to create and nurture our feeder and middle school programs. I think that's something that we as basketball coaches a lot of times look past. And maybe it's the transfer era that we're going through, I don't know. But I'm a firm believer that I've got to get a player who's in 7th grade. I've got to develop him to hopefully he's able to play for me when he gets to the high school level. Maybe it's not as a 9th grader or 10th grader, but hopefully by 11th grade, he can help me at the high school level. We have summer and winter basketball camps. And like I said, our preseason skill development is key for us at Holy Innocents. And then we also talk about relevant. So we talk about what's not on the basketball court. So the vision of our school, Holy Innocents Episcopal School, is to respect for self and others, faith in God, and a sense of service to the world community. So coming into this job, I want to make sure that our players understood that. So we came up with a 4 paws of a bear. It was what Coach Reggie Anderson and I sat down with and came up with for our players. And obviously our nickname are the Golden Bear, so we kind of use that. So the B stands for brotherhood, which is the respect of self and others. Am I my brother's keeper? You know, we talk about holding our players accountable, and this is very important for our program. The E is for engagement, the love of learning. Will we be engaged in our learning with maximum effort at all times? That effort word comes up again. That love of learning has to not just be for basketball, has to be for what you're doing in the classroom from 8 to 4 or 8 to 3, every day. Then, you know, the A is for authority, the faith in God. You know, one of them is it allowed me to represent my faith, which is there's no higher power or will than God. And we obviously may have some people on our team that don't believe in God, but they believe in a higher power. And we want them to understand why that higher power is important. And then the R is the responsibility, the sense of service. So we have a responsibility to be of service to our school, community, and the world. And so, you know, for instance, this year our team wrote letters to people in the armed services during the holidays. You know, that's just one example of what are things that we try to do to have a sense of service. And so we went from our 4 paws of a bear to 7 pillars that we really believe in on our basketball team. And that's knowledge. And does everyone know what the expectations of our program are? Is it to be spelled out for them specifically and to leave no room for adjustments? Like, they've got to know where we're trying to go. And I'm not going to lie, when you take over a program, that may be a struggle at the beginning for them to know what the expectations are of the program. There has to be some nobility. Who are you and what is your history and what will your legacy be from a program standpoint? If you were to talk to our 3 seniors right now, they understand the legacy that they have begun to leave for our program for years to come by just leaving it out on the floor every time they play. Integrity, to thine own self be true. We're a true believer in being, you know, upfront with each other. You know, I think Coach White said this one time, truth and trust. We're really believers in that. Guardian, we will protect the image and state of our program by any means necessary. That means not doing anything that's going to, you know, not represent your family, yourself, the school, our program in any way that's going to hurt us. Honor, we honor our parents, coaches, school administrators, government leaders to the highest level of respect. Again, we go back to trust. We put our trust in without limits. And sometimes that trust may be hard, meaning it might not be what you need that night. It may not be your night. It may be somebody else's night, but you got to trust the direction of the players, the coaches, and the coaches have to trust the players for execution and feedback. You know, that was really big for us. You know, everybody on my staff I had never worked with before, you know, this time, you know, even though I wanted them to come in. So making sure we had feedback as coaches and then making sure our players were able to give us feedback as well. You know, I remember a night after a loss where we as coaches and players sat in the locker room and we had a open dialogue about how we could get better. And like I said, we go back to that service part. And again, at the bottom, you kind of see what our motto and our daily vitamins are, right? And then we had everything, and we get to the timely part, right? Which kind of goes to that ladder of success that I've been talking about. By-step process for developing our student athletes and our team and transforming them from independent individuals to a single cohesive unit. And that's the founding belief of the ladder of success that I believe that's development of an individual, that the development of an individual will help the team grow as a unit. I think we might have a question, Coach.
Yeah, we did, and it kind of, you're hitting on it now. It's probably going to be good timing. It just says, how do you create, build, discuss, present this to players? You know, the presentation is always important.
Mm-hmm.
So how is your presentation on this to them?
It's something I didn't just present to players. I presented to parents as well. You know, we sit in a room and we talk about it. How are we going to get from point A to point B? And if you go to that next slide, it'll kind of show that ladder of success that I'm talking about. You know, the discipline and organization. Well, what does it mean to be disciplined and organized? So we went through our handbook as a team about what I expected them to do. Classroom, game days, how we kind of went through our discipline and organization, and it was new to them. You know, this was the first year. I'm old school, guys, so please understand. They didn't get to wear all the different color shoes that they wanted to wear. That was different for a lot of them. So that was that discipline organization that we're talking about. The individual skill development. You know, are you going to go outside your way to get better? You know, it was not easy for some of these guys to wake up at 6:30 in the morning and we're telling them, let's go get better. But we didn't have anybody not show up. You know, we had, and maybe I don't know, but we had a football guy who would come to our individual skill stuff in the mornings. So it didn't impact him in football. And we will allow him to do anything that was not, you know, 1-on-1 or 2-on-2 in the 4-on-1 drills. And then our position group development was very big. We would spend 10 to 20 time in position group development. And then our team development just doesn't come in practice or running plays. Team development sometimes is how do you get a team to come together, to buy in. And I'm always open to bringing people in and talk to your team on all different elements. Maybe it's about life. You know, when I was at the Loop, we had a lawyer come in and talk to our guys about, you know, we all have seniors on our team, and a lot of times seniors like to mess with 9th grade girls. Well, what happens if you become sexually active with a 9th grader and their parents don't like it? We had a lawyer talk to them about that kind of stuff. And lastly, by doing all our individual stuff, our position group stuff, and the team stuff that we do in practice, we want to have positionless basketball, which means we want all players who can dribble, shoot, and pass. And that's what we're really trying to build as far as a basketball team. And that just kind of gives you another example of it. You can go to the next one, Coach. And so when we talk about building blocks, I think you got to understand how your building blocks to really get to a winning tradition start. That foundation level is huge. One of the biggest things that we have at Holy Innocents is a true weight program. We have a strength and conditioning coach, and that's all he does. He has a class during the day, and he's not just for football, but he has a class during the day which all athletes roll through, and he puts them through a weight program. He puts them through a weight program throughout the season. You know, he's even put them a weight program out for our players even through this trying time we have right now. I think many times as varsity coaches, we don't spend enough time with our JV or 9th grade programs or our feeder programs, which are our middle school programs. My 7th and 8th grade coach can tell you I was at games this year. One game I was on the bench, so I was on the bench with the assistant 8th grade coach to help coach them on a Saturday morning at 8 o'clock. And I think your summer program is huge. What are you trying to get done in the summer? Because it's not about trying to win summer games, in my opinion. It's about how can you improve your team during the summer. So you've got to really sit down and say, what can we do to get better through our summer program? One of the biggest things I did since we've been out of school is I asked certain coaches that we played against this year, what were our strengths and weaknesses, or what did they see when they played us? And I had a coaches meeting via Zoom with my staff, and we talked about those things and how we can improve and get better from them. as you build from the bottom up, you've got to have student and teacher support. I think a lot of times you do not want to be in a situation where they feel it's your program versus the school. You know, there's got to be a support system together. I send out an email every year that lets them know to come talk to me, email me if they're having issues, if they're having great success with any one of our players. And it's been a great thing. Your coaching staff has to have support. Many times we try to do things outside of basketball. The girls and boys coaching staff at Holy Innocents, beginning of the year, we all went to Top Golf and just had a great time together. I think you have to have parental support. One of the big things that I do, some people don't like to involve their parents for whatever reason, but I have a State of the Bears, which is kind of like a State of the Union, every Wednesday for our program. Well, they can come in and ask questions. You know, many times they're not trying to ask you an X or no question. You know, they're just trying to understand, you know, maybe why we play so many games or why we're doing things this way. But it allows the parents to really understand what you're doing and why you're doing it in your program, which now means they're supporting you. That's not supporting you, because parents will not support you whether you're winning or losing now. And I think all that can lead to your academic and athletic success, which then comes down to your winning tradition.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of what I have. And I'm going to open it up for questions, whatever questions you may have. My cell number's there, 444-432-9646. Email, like I said, I've got anything that I have I'm willing to share. Just email me. I'll shoot it to you. Or even there's my Twitter, so you can hit me up on Twitter. And, you know, I open up to any questions that you may have, Coach Park, or if anybody out here listening may have.
Yeah, if you got a question, put it in the chat. We'll put it in. I'll ask you one real quick, Coach, that I ask everybody. So you've had a ton of success. What advice would you have for somebody that was starting out, aspiring to be a head coach, like you were at Dutchtown, or where, you know, at that age, what do you wish you had done then that would have helped you now?
Wish I would have done then. It's not being such a hurry. I think when I jumped out there to be a head coach, I learned very quickly there were so many things that I did not know. So you got to take it all in. You got to learn. You got to ask questions from people you work with, work for, to other coaches that maybe you admire or talk to, or just anyone. Probably the second thing is we all used to, well, we not now, we're on virtual clinics, but we all used to go to clinics and we would write all this stuff down. Oh, I'm going to use this. Everything that you take from someone may not be applicable for your situation. And the quicker I understood that was the quicker I was able to become a better coach on the floor. That this is something I could put in my Rolodex or a binder or something I can go back and look at, but I've got to make sure I use things that, number one, my players can actually do, or number two, that I can actually share with my players and get them to do. Because if you can't do that with your players, and then they're not going to.
Well, that's right. And I just, you know, I learned a lot listening to you there and in the whole presentation, but I thought it was great when you said that, you know, you're going to have parent problems. You know, you can have parent problems to be undefeated.
Yeah.
You can have, you know, you can be at a private school. You can have really good players. You're still going to have issues. It does, none of that matters. The culture is cultivated constantly. It's like a garden. You got to be, you know, you got to work on it daily, every place. And it's a cop out for people to say something different than that. You know, it is. I mean, anybody.
I tell coaches all the time, no matter what job you have, there's going to be an issue. And the question you have to ask yourself are the issues bigger than everything else? Because if the issues become bigger than everything else, then maybe you do need to look at a different place. But if it's an issue that you can solve and get past, then it's not an issue it's not really an issue, in my opinion. It's just something that has to happen that you got to get through.
Well, the best coaches just deal with it. And I think sometimes when you hadn't had the success that you've had, or if, you know, you hadn't really been a part of what we're doing, then you just kind of think that magic happens and you guys are, you know, like y'all just, you know what you're doing. You've got all these good players or whatever it is, whatever excuse people make. And they don't see the work that goes into what happens at places like this where you turning this thing around and it'll be just like it is at Duluth, just like it was at St. Francis, because you are putting this work in, not because of magic.
And to me, that's what it really means. You got to really put the work in. Like, you can't expect to get players better, but you're only opening up the gym when it's time to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can't expect to get better as a coach if you're not learning from another coach, or trying to go to clinics, or, my thing every time I come to go listen to a clinic or go listen to a speaker, if I can gain one thing, and sometimes that thing is, man, that was great, but I can't use that right now, I've gotten better as a coach. And I think many times we as coaches, we put so many years in or so much time in, we don't think we can get better anymore.
It's so true. We had a question that said, how has the relationship been with all of your ADs at these stops?
It's been different. Obviously, I'll first talk about Holy Innocents. Tony Watkins is the best.
Yeah, he's top notch.
Maybe because he's a former basketball coach, that helps a lot. But he's the absolute best at understanding and supporting us in everything that we do. I think it's been different at every place with an AD. I do think your relationship with your AD and principal or head of school, I think that's very important for you. I think if you don't have that, you can have some real problems at your school. And I've been lucky in all of my stops that I've had really good ADs, really good principals. Dr. Eric Davidson at Duluth, along with Dr. Smith, who hired me at Duluth. We still have conversations to this day, as well as the people at St. Francis. So I think that's really big for you. Whenever you're taking a job or you have a job, you got to hope that vision, like we talked about our vision that we want to have at Holy Innocents. If my vision didn't match up with the school's vision, then there's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Does your school want to be successful, or are they just okay with competing? And are you just okay with competing? Like, there's some questions you have to ask yourself when you look at jobs and what job do you have and what you're trying to do.
Absolutely, Coach. That's gold there. I always felt like if you wanted to get better at whatever it was, building a relationship, communicating, and presenting it in the right way, that answers about every question you got. So when you talk, I've been the AD and I've been the district AD. I've never been the head basketball coach, but I worked with a bunch of them. And, the best ones could build that relationship. They could sell you on what they needed, their vision. They communicated, and they didn't get their feelings hurt because sometimes you're not going to get your way, and sometimes it's just life. But you don't get your feelings hurt. Build those relationships. Build them in the good times. Go sit down with that AD.
Mm-hmm.
Put yourself in his perspective sometime. For all these people listening, I know Coach already knows this. But for those of you listening, go put it in their perspective. You've been looking through the keyhole, and the AD's got to look through the whole room. He don't get to just talk about basketball or just football or just golf or whatever it is. So try to put yourself in their perspective. And then you'll be surprised that you're getting your way a lot when you really think of it like that. You don't get your feelings hurt a couple times. You got to work something out yourself. And it's just a lot of lessons there that are across sports. Doesn't matter what sport you coach.
And I think coaches of the other sports at your school, especially if you're at a school that has a great football program or a great baseball program or, volleyball, whatever it is. What can you learn? What can you pick up from those male or female coaches that can help your program? Because obviously it's not going to be an X or the O thing, but it could be a relationship thing. It could be how do you manage, the teachers in the school. It could be how do you manage certain personnel in the school. Just talk to them, got to have a great relationship. Taylor Nolan is a great resource at our school. She's won 3 volleyball championships at Holy Innocents. Or, Nicole Dixon, who just is coming off back-to-back state girls championships at our school. Or, our football coach, Todd Winter, who's been successful at many different places. Or even our track and cross-country program. Our cross-country program just won a state championship. So having conversations with all these people about what they're doing to try to get better, how are they able to do certain things, really helps.
And then try not to, with your AD and with the other coaches, not making it out like you all aren't on the same team. I mean, don't try to compete with that track coach to win the state championship. Be happy for him. Be happy for him. Go ask what you learned from. you know, instead of trying to be, I think naturally sometimes you get a little envious if one team's doing really well. But, you know, I went to Chapel Hill High School. They had been open 10 years at that point. It's 2008. And they never had a winning season in football. But they were really good at boys basketball then. They were really good at track and field. They were really good at basically everything but baseball. And so you just kind of felt like if I could just listen and learn from these guys, surely we can win in football. And then we won the first year, you know. We had good players. We just – but everybody focused on what they didn't have. I asked some of these people. I said, hey, what's the difference here? And some of those coaches, we had a great track coach, won a bunch of state championships. She told me, she said, everybody comes in here and focus on what they don't have, and they're not focusing on what they do have. And so some reason that's just stuck with me forever. And I use that line all the time, you know, focus on what you do have. And if you've got some good coaches at your school that are a resource for you, see that as a positive, not a negative.
Exactly.
You got anybody else? Anybody else got a question? We'll get Coach out of here. I'm gonna start rambling. Coach, it means a lot to me that you took your time to talk to me about all this. I really appreciate it. We'll save this recording, put it out for people can watch that couldn't get on. But you know, just appreciate what you're doing for the coaching profession, and I'm always here if I can help you in any way or anybody else listening. I told you I'm doing this now for fun, so I love being involved and staying in sports, and this is just something I enjoy doing. So somebody says, one guy said, we don't do this in the UK. We got somebody from the United Kingdom listening, Coach.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Hey, and like I said, anybody that's out there, anytime I can help you, just reach out to me in any way. Hopefully we can continue to help each other no matter what sport we coach, and especially us basketball coaches. And the biggest thing right now is for us to stay safe as we go through this COVID-19, and I hope everyone's family is doing it.
Absolutely, Coach. You take care of yourself. Take care of your family, and everybody out there listening. Stay home. You know, take care of yourself. Let's get through this thing. Get back to basketball.
Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Take care.
Coach Parker.